Good evening, you lunatics. We got more hockey. Leafs, Flames in Toronto. They lost terribly. Not terribly. It was just one of those games where they threw out a bit of a clunker, I guess. Not even. It was really weird. Like I said, with my later shift at the new school I'm at, I don't get to see the first part of the first. And stuff like that. But I got home pretty soon into the first period, and the game had a really good pace. Calgary had a slight edge in shots to begin with, but the pace was really good. I thought the play was really even, and yeah, the Leafs just couldn't seem to score, and they seemed a bit disjointed. But then they would have some shifts where they really put it together. I thought the line that kind of led by example and were the guys who were kind of more with it and on it was the third line of Kerfoot with Engvall and Mikheyev, which is kind of a scary line in terms of speed. Kerfoot's not a big guy, but he's really fast. And then you've got Engvall and Mikheyev, who are both bigger guys and who also have a lot of speed. So it's a really quick line, and they caused a bit of a ruckus and looked pretty good together. So, oh, sorry, I just woke up from like a nap after the game. And it was an involuntary nap. But anyways, the Leafs would plug away, couldn't get anything. They had 7 power play chances, including a lengthy 5-on-3 at some point in the second period, or maybe the early third, and generated some really good chances and stuff. But when they did get stuff going and did throw some good shots on net, Riddick was there to stop them. So, it was kind of a two-pronged thing, right? They weren't playing at their best, and when they did get some chances, their goalie was really good. So it was just one of those games where, they were bound to lose again at some point, right? So this is just one of those games that kind of evens things out a bit. They were out face-offed quite a bit in this game, which is unusual for the Leafs. They're one of the best face-off teams in the league, I believe, and it wasn't just that they got beat by a couple. They got beat by a lot, so they really lost the face-off battle. They got out-hit as usual, which is no big thing. That's kind of their style. And also the power play going 0 for 7 kind of hurt them, right? So those were kind of the key factors in terms of the game stats and stuff. One of the biggest key factors, though, and one of the biggest reasons why they maybe were a little disjointed tonight is that all of a sudden they had a ton of guys not playing. Simmons has already been hurt for a little while, we know that. But then prior to this game, we found out that Joe Thornton wouldn't be playing. I'm not sure what's wrong with him. Jake Muzzin didn't play, so that was a big presence on the defense gone. And then there was one guy that didn't. One other main kind of player that didn't play. I forget who it is now, actually. And then perhaps most of all is that Freddie Anderson didn't play because he got hurt in the last game. Last game he went down on a save and kind of you could see him kind of getting slowly back up, and it looked like something had happened. But then he finished the game, like a lot of the rest of the game. So it wasn't I kind of didn't think much about it afterwards. But obviously something a little more major did happen in that game, and although he was able to finish it, something carried over, so he was out. So Hutchison started again, and you couldn't really blame him for I forget what the Flames scored once in the first, once in the second, once in the third. I forget what the third period goal looked like, but the first two were all tips. The first goal was a tip that was a little less of a direction change and a little further out, but regardless, it changed direction and took a weird bounce. And the second one was right in front of him. So you couldn't really fault him for anything. I think that Hutch has looked pretty good, actually. And, it was just one of those nights where, they're kind of destined to lose with the way everything unfolded. So, and Keefe had to keep trying different combinations and stuff like that with guys out of the lineup like that. He had to kind of... Hyman was the other guy. So that's another big part of the team, right? So... So that kind of disrupted all the lines in the defensive pairing. So he had to kind of try different combos all night long and see if anything clicked, and unfortunately nothing really did. So so the Leafs end up losing 3-0. So I'm not going to read much into it. You know, all of a sudden you have your starting goalie plus three guys suddenly, surprisingly, not in the lineup, right? So you know, stuff's going to happen when that kind of sudden change happens, right? So, but on the bright side, I thought they had played with a lot of pace. They ended up out shooting Calgary by 1 or 2, so they were right in it. It's just it just didn't happen. So if they'd thrown out a total dud where they had 8 shots all game long and they looked slow and nobody could take a pass, I'd be a little more worried. But this is one of those games that they easily, if Riddick lets 1 or 2 of those goals in, the power play hits for 1 or whatever, this game could have had a much different complexion, right? So so I'm just going to take it, throw it away based on the circumstances, and hopefully they get some of these guys back and for the next game. And they got 2 days. They play again on Wednesday, so we'll see. I didn't really hear much about the severity of all the different various injuries and stuff, so hopefully they get most, if not all, of those guys back for the next game, and they can kind of have a little more of a normal lineup and a normal circumstance going into that game, because I want them to keep padding that lead, and I want them to bury Calgary too. I hate Calgary, so you know, the more we beat them. At this point, they're still struggling and not in a playoff position right now. So the more we keep beating them and piling on the misery for them, the more likely they're not going to make the playoffs. So, well, bad news is they didn't win tonight. Good news is we get another chance on Wednesday. So we'll see what happens. Have a good night.